This is MARYAM TV, and you're watching Perspectives with me, MARYAM Olugbote. Another day, another power struggle. Lagos State House of Assembly has just seen a major shakeup. Mojisola Meranda is out. Mudashiru Obasa is back. And behind it all, the ever-present influence of party supremacy. Sudan is witnessing one of the darkest chapters in modern history. The war that started as a past struggle between rival military factions has now spiraled into something far worse, a war on children. The latest report from UNICEF is chilling. Infants and young children are being raped, abused, and brutalized as weapons of war. The numbers are staggering, the details horrific, and yet the world remains largely silent. So what's happening in Sudan? Why are children the biggest victims of this war? And will anyone step in to stop it? Another major shift in U.S. foreign policy under President Donald Trump. The message is loud and clear: no more blank checks for Ukraine. After a tense Oval Office meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Trump has ordered an immediate pause on all U.S. military aid to Kyiv. This is not just a delay. This is a complete rethink of America's role in the Russia-Ukraine war. Trump wants results, not endless spending, and he believes Ukraine isn't doing enough to secure peace. So what happened in that meeting? Why did it turn into a diplomatic showdown? And more importantly, what does this mean for Ukraine, Europe, and the future of the world? So this is more coming, but first the news headline. Meranda resigns, Obasa returns in Lagos Assembly shakeup. Sudan's war on children, rape used as weapon, UNICEF report. Trump hits the brake in U.S. military aid to Ukraine. Trump's tariff war begins with Canada, Mexico, and China. Japan battles raging wildfire. 7 workers survive after 36-hour under avalanche. Now to the news and details. Power, politics, and pressure. Lagos Assembly's leadership drama unfolds. Meranda, who had barely won the speaker's seat since January 2025, resigned on Monday. Her reason, officially, she cited the need to preserve the integrity of the legislative institution. But unofficially, reports suggest intense pressure from the ruling All Progressive Congress APC hierarchy. Pressure too strong to resist.
I, Mudashiru solemnly swear that in the service of the state as the Speaker of Lagos State House of Assembly, I will be faithful, bear true allegiance to Lagos State of Nigeria at all times. I will not discriminate on the basis of religion, tribe, cause, status, or practice, my form of on the practice of any form of partiality in the performance of my official duties.
Now, let's talk about Obasa, a seasoned politician. He was impeached amid allegations of financial mismanagement and abuse of office. But in Nigerian politics, the tides can turn swiftly. His return to power just weeks after being ousted suggests that party loyalty trumps everything else. If you had any doubts about who really controls Lagos politics, here's the answer. The APC, Nigeria's ruling party, has a stronghold in Lagos. And in case anyone forgot, this is the stronghold of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Political analysts believe that high-ranking political officials play different roles in orchestrating Meranda's exit. The message: party decisions are final. Whether this was about competence or control remains a matter of debate, but one thing is clear: Meranda didn't leave of her own accord. For lawmakers who work for independence in the Lagos Assembly, this episode is a rude awakening. It is not about who gets elected, it is about who has the backing of the party elite. Meranda's resignation may have been framed as a personal decision, But political insiders see it as yet another reminder of how Nigerian democracy often operates. Legislative integrity, that is debatable. Party supremacy, undeniable. Obasanjo's reinstatement means a return to familiar governance. Whether that is good or bad depends on whom you have. But one thing is certain. In Lagos politics, survival isn't about what the people want. It is about who holds the strings behind closed doors. This is Power Play, Nigerian style. Sudan's war on children. Rape used as weapon, UNICEF reports. Sudan has been in chaos since April 2023. Two military factions, the Sudanese Armed Forces (SAF) and the Rapid Support Forces (RSF), are fighting for control. What started as a battle for power has turned into a bloodbath, with civilians caught in the middle.
A scream of sheer agony from a child tortured by the blast that set her on fire. She cries for her mother, who can't afford to change her soiled bandages. Khadija was burnt as she pulled her daughter out to safety. They survived the shell that hit their home, but have to contend with what it left behind.
I'd rather die than hear her cries.
And now, children are paying their heaviest price. UNICEF reports that in just 100 days, at least 435 children have been killed and over 2,000 injured. That means one child is attacked every hour. But the violence goes beyond gunfire and bombs. Children, some as young as 1 year old, have been raped and tortured by armed fighters. Sexual violence is being used as a tool of war to spread terror, to break communities, to exact control. The United Nations has documented over 2,000 cases of grave violations against children, including abductions, killings, forced recruitment, and sexual violence. And these are just the reported cases. The real numbers far worse. Sudan's war has already displaced 40 million people, half of them children. Entire villages have been wiped out. Schools, hospitals, and refugee camps have become battlefields. The country is also on the brink of famine. Food supplies are low, aid workers are being killed, and humanitarian access is nearly impossible. The UN says 5 million people are facing starvation, and yet this war is barely making global headlines. The international response has been shockingly weak. The UN has launched an $838 million humanitarian appeal to help Sudan's children. But guess what? Only 9% of that funding has been received. The world is watching Sudan burn and doing nothing. Virginia Gamba, the UN Special Representative for Children in Armed Conflict, has called for an immediate ceasefire. But Sudan's warring generals are not listening. They are not interested in peace, they want power. Meanwhile, the West is distracted, focusing on Ukraine, Israel, and elections. Arab and African leaders are divided, each backing different factions for their own interests. China and Russia are silent. Their priority is resources, not human rights. Sudan is not just facing a war, it is facing a genocide against children. They have been killed, stabbed, raped, and abandoned, and yet no urgent action is being taken. How many more children need to suffer before the world pays attention? Moving on, Trump eased the brake on US military aid to Ukraine. Zelensky arrived in Washington expecting support. He left with an ultimatum. The meeting started as a diplomatic discussion, but quickly turned into a high-stakes confrontation.
I don't want to see this go on for years and years. Now, President Zelensky supposedly made a statement today in AP. I'm not a big fan of AP, so maybe it was an incorrect statement, but he said he thinks the war's going to go on for a long time. And he better not be right about that. That's all I'm saying.
According to sources, Trump was visibly frustrated with Ukraine's war strategy. President Zelensky to negotiate with Russia, something Kyiv has resisted for years. But Trump was having none of it. At one point, the president allegedly warned Zelensky, "You will not be around very long. If he doesn't rethink his approach, a stark warning, a direct threat, interpret it as you will, but the message was clear. Ukraine can't rely on endless American aid." Vice President J.D. Vance doubled down, taking to the media to call out Zelensky for what he called a lack of gratitude towards the U.S. Vance accused Ukraine of expecting the American taxpayers to bankroll its war indefinitely without any clear result. Translations: the days of unconditional support are over. This pause in military aid is no small setback. Since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, Ukraine has received nearly $64 billion in U.S. military assistance, weapons, ammunition, training, intelligence. Washington has been Ukraine's strongest backer. Now that pipeline is shutting down. The implications are massive. Ukraine's military depends on U.S. support to keep Russian forces at bay. Without fresh supplies, battlefield operations will be hit hard. And while Europe has pledged continued support, let's be honest, European nations do not have the same military muscle as the United States. This puts Ukraine in an impossible position. Either you fight on with fewer resources, or it considers what Trump is demanding, negotiation with Russia. Ukraine is not the only one facing a crisis. Europe is watching this unfold with growing concern. Many European leaders fear that without US backing, Ukraine's resistance could crumble. But Trump's message to them is just as blunt: step up or step aside. He has repeatedly criticized European nations for relying too heavily on American military aid. In simple terms, Washington is no longer willing to be Europe's security shield. If European leaders truly want to keep Ukraine in the fight, they will have to fill the gap left by America's retreat. But the question is, are they prepared to do it? With military aid frozen, Ukraine is scrambling for alternatives, and there are signs that Kyiv may be shifting tactics. Reports suggest that Ukraine is preparing to sign a $1 deals with the US, a strategic move that could strengthen economic ties even as military support dries up. Rare minerals are critical for defense and technology, and Ukraine has some of the largest reserves in Europe. This could be a lifeline, but it won't replace direct military aid. The bottom line, Zelensky's government is under pressure to find a new strategy, and fast. Trump's decision to pause military aid is more than just a policy shift. It is a turning point in global geopolitics. For Ukraine, the message is clear. The US will not fund this war forever. It needs to show results, either militarily or diplomatically. For Europe, this is a wake-up call. The days of relying on Washington's generosity are coming to an end. For the world, this could be the start of a major realignment in international alliances. Will Ukraine give in to US pressure and consider negotiations, or will European countries step up and take charge of security in its own backyard? The stakes have never been higher, and as always, the world is watching. Moving on, Trump's tariff war begins with Canada, Mexico, and China. Brace yourselves, the trade war is back, and this time it isn't close to home. President Donald Trump has just imposed sweeping tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China, triggering immediate backlash from US allies and global rivals alike. The move, which Trump calls a necessary economic defense, has already sent the financial market into a tailspin, with fears of rising consumer prices, job losses, and supply chain disruptions looming large. So what's happening? Why is Trump doubling down on tariffs? And how are these countries eating back? Let's break it down.
Amidst the fragile ceasefire in Gaza and the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, another major global conflict is on the horizon, at least That's what it appeared to be. Here's what happened. First, US President Donald Trump announced punitive tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China. The three biggest trading partners then vowed to respond. A potential trade war of this magnitude threatens to destabilize the global economy. And then came the characteristic Trump U-turn.
These tariffs is some of the ashes here, directly targeting key imports from America's largest trade partners, Canada and Mexico. A 25% tariff on imported goods, including steel, aluminum, and manufactured products. Canada's energy export to the US also face an additional 10% duty. Also China. Tariffs on Chinese imports have been increased from 10% to 20%, affecting electronics, machinery, and raw materials critical to American industry. Trump's justification: national security, economic fairness, and border control. For decades, these countries have been ripping us off. Trump said at a press conference, that ends today. We will no longer allow unfair trade practices, job losses, and uncontrolled drug trafficking into our country. But while the White House insists this is about protecting American jobs, the reality is more complicated. Trade wars don't come without consequences, and those consequences are already here. Within hours of the tariffs taking effect, the global backlash was swift and brutal. Canada immediately announced $107 billion in retaliatory tariffs, targeting US exports like dairy, automotive parts, and consumer goods. Ottawa called Trump's move reckless and self-defeating. China hit back by slapping tariffs on US farm export, a move that will hurt American agriculture, especially in the Midwest. Beijing also imposed new restrictions on US companies operating in China, signaling that it won't back down from an economic fight. Mexico is still weighing its response, but government sources suggest higher tariffs on US corn, meat, and industrial goods, a move that could directly impact American farmers and manufacturers. Translation: this isn't just a foreign problem, it is an American one. Businesses are scrambling, and millions of American workers, farmers, and consumers will feel the heat. The financial markets have responded with chaos. The Dow Jones, S&P 500, and Nasdaq also significant drops following the announcement, as investors fled to safer assets amid fears of a prolonged trade war. Why? Because tariffs don't just hurt foreign businesses, they disrupt supply chains, increase production costs, and ultimately make everyday goods more expensive for American consumers. Electronics expect price hikes. Many components are sourced from China, and manufacturers will pass on the extra costs. Automobiles, car prices to rise. The tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports hit the auto industry directly. Groceries, higher food costs. If Mexico retaliates against US farm export, American consumers will feel the pinch at supermarkets. A strong economy can absorb short-term trade disputes, but if this escalates into a full-blown trade war, job losses and inflation could fall. So what happens now? The biggest question is whether Trump doubles down or backs off. If the tariffs continue uninterrupted, expect a long and painful battle. Businesses will struggle with higher costs, foreign investment could dry up, and the global economy could slow down. Meanwhile, Canada, Mexico, and China are already working on alternative trade alliances to reduce their dependence on the US. If that happens, America's influence on global trade could weaken permanently. Trump supporters argue that short-term pain is worth the long-term gain. The critics say this is a dangerous gamble that could backfire on the US economy. Either way, one thing is clear. The trade war is officially back, and it's only getting started. Brace yourselves. Moving on, Japan battles raging wildfire. The raging inferno. Thousands displaced, homes turned to ash. Japan is burning.
でしょうか。小屋でしょうか。
The massive forest fires engulfed the northeastern coastal city of Finato, forcing over 1,200 residents to flee for their lives. The flames, found by dry weather and strong winds, have destroyed dozens of homes and left firefighters struggling to contain the destruction. This isn't just another wildfire. This is one of the worst Japan has seen in decades. So what really happened? The fire erupted on February 26 in the town of Okasaki in Iwate Prefecture. Within hours, it has spread at an alarming rate, devouring everything in its path. Over 2,100 hectares, that is 5,190 acres of land, have been consumed, an area nearly the size of central Tokyo. The reason? The driest winter Japan has seen since 1946. In February, Naruto recorded just 2.5 millimeters of rain, a 95% drop from its average. Combine that with strong wind and dense forest, and you have the perfect recipe for disaster. And now, the battle is on to stop this fire before it consumes more lives. More than 1,200 people have been evacuated, forced to leave behind everything as flames closed in. Shelters in schools and community centers are overflowing. Another 2,000 people have left their homes to stay with relatives, uncertain if they will ever return. And there has already been a tragic loss of life, just one. The man's body was found on the road, burnt beyond recognition. Authorities are investigating whether it was caught in the fire's deadly path. For the people of Nato, this is more than a disaster, it is a nightmare. At least 34 homes have been damaged or destroyed, families left with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Firefighters and the self-defense forces, as they have over 2,000 personnel, are battling the blaze. The containment is proving nearly impossible. The fire is raging in mountainous forested terrain, making access difficult and suppression efforts slow. And Japan knows what happens when wildfires spiral out of control. The country hasn't seen a fire this massive since the late 1980s. The risk of it spreading further is very real. Prime Minister Shigeru Shiba has pledged all possible resources to contain the fire, deploying more personnel and aerial firefighting teams. But is it too late? Officials are raising against time, hoping that an incoming snowstorm expected on Wednesday will help douse the flames before more destruction unfolds. But here is the bigger question. Why wasn't Japan prepared for this? For now, Japan waits and watches as firefighters fight back the flames. Will they succeed before more lives are lost? Will the government step up its disaster preparedness? Or will this fire set a dangerous precedent for the future? One thing is clear, this crisis is far from over. Moving on, buried alive, 7 workers survived 36 hours under Himalayan avalanche. Trapped under tons of ice, fighting freezing temperatures, or fading by the hour. For 36 agonizing hours. 7 workers in India's Ladakh region were buried alive.
At least 41 construction workers were trapped after the large group was swept away by an avalanche near India's border with Tibet on Friday, officials said.
After a massive avalanche struck their work site, the men who had been working on a high-altitude road construction project found themselves entombed under a crushing mass of ice and snow, with no food, no water, and almost no chance of survival. But against all odds, they made it out alive. This is a story of survival, resilience, and a daring rescue mission in one of the harshest environments on Earth. The workers were part of a border roads organization BRO project, tasked with constructing a road near Shinkula Pass, a treacherous high-altitude route between Ladakh and Himachal Pradesh. At around 3:30 p.m. on Sunday, disaster struck. Without warning, a wall of ice and snow came crashing down, swallowing the entire work site. 7 workers were instantly buried under tons of debris. The extreme cold and thin air makes survival almost impossible. Communication was cut off, and there was no way to know if anyone had survived. In a matter of seconds, the worksite turned into a frozen graveyard. The moment the avalanche hit, rescue teams sprang into action, but reaching the buried workers was a nightmare. The Himalayan terrain is unforgiving. Steep cliffs, unpredictable weather, and knee-deep snow made rescue effort dangerous and slow. Night fell, and temperatures plunged below -15 degrees Celsius. Rescuers had to keep moving to avoid freezing themselves. Every passing hour reduced the chances of survival. Hypothermia, suffocation, and injuries from the avalanche posed deadly threats. Rescue workers from the Indo-Tibetan Border Police (ITBP), along with PRO engineers and the Indian Army, braved the harsh conditions, using heavy machinery, shovels, and even their bare hands to dig through the ice. But 36 hours passed with no sign of life. Would they even find bodies, let alone survivors? Then in the early hours of Tuesday morning, something unbelievable happened. The rescuer, digging through the compacted snow, suddenly heard a faint noise, a cry for help. The workers were alive. One by one, they were pulled out, weak, shivering, and barely conscious, but breathing. They'd been trapped in a tiny air pocket beneath the ice, huddling together to conserve body heat. For a day and a half, they survived on nothing but sheer willpower. Some had frostbite, others were too weak to speak, but against all odds, they had made it. It was a miracle in the Himalayas. The survivors were immediately rushed to a military hospital for treatment. Doctors confirmed that while some had hypothermia and minor injuries, they were all expected to make a full recovery. But the incident raised serious questions. Where weren't proper safety measures in place? The Himalayas are prone to avalanche. Yet, many construction workers lack the necessary gear to survive extreme weather. Is climate change making disasters like this more common? Rising temperatures are destabilizing glaciers, increasing the risk of sudden ice collapses. For now, India is celebrating a miraculous survival story. 7 lives, thought to be lost, were pulled back from the edge, but now everyone gets a second chance. These serve as a wake-up call for better safety regulations, or would it be just another disaster waiting to happen? One thing is certain. Next time, not everyone will be so lucky. Once again, the news headlines. Miranda resigns. Abbasa returns in Lagos Assembly shaker. Sudan's war on children. Rape used as weapon. UNICEF reports. Trump hits the brakes on U.S. military aid to Ukraine. Trump's tariff war begins with Canada, Mexico, and China. Japan battles raging wildfire. 7 workers survive after 36 hours on the avalanche. Thanks for staying tuned. Once again, I am MARYAM OLUGBODE.